Julia stepped into her tiny home, the door creaking shut behind her like a sigh of relief. Philip's apartment, with its sleek lines and warm calm, felt like a distant dream now, replaced by the familiar chaos of her two-room nest in the heart of Harlem. Her bedroom was barely larger than a generous closet, walls lined with mismatched shelves overflowing with art supplies and a fire escape window that offered a sliver of the city's relentless pulse. The air smelled of old paint and lingering coffee grounds, a comforting mess that wrapped around her like an old sweater. She dropped her bag by the door, the weight of it thudding against the worn wooden floor. Her movements were automatic, a ritual born from years of solo living. First she unpacked, keys, wallet, then clothes. She set the coffee pot on the stove, its hiss and gurgle a soothing backdrop to the distant honks and shouts from the street below. While it brewed, she slapped together a sandwich, ham, cheese, and a wilted leaf of lettuce from the fridge, and ate it standing at the kitchen counter, her phone in hand. She checked for messages, emails, chats, even though she'd done the same on the subway just 15 minutes ago. Nothing from Philip yet. He was probably knee-deep in his conference in Philadelphia by now. Last night had been electric, a frenzy of hands and whispers in the dim light of his bedroom. 2 days in a row. They might have repeated it today if he hadn't left. Julia felt a flush creep up her neck, remembering the way his fingers had traced her skin, the way he'd said her name like a secret. But beneath the warmth, anxiety gnawed at her. His notes, those meticulous pages on his patients, had flashed in her mind all morning. She wasn't named, but she knew she was there, one of the addicts he documented with clinical detachment. Guilt twisted in her gut. Could she quit on her own? Did she even want to? It was easier this way, the haze of cocaine and weed muffling the sharp edges of her life. Yet, deep down, she knew if she truly wanted it, she could walk away forever. She just needed a spark. Maybe Philip was that spark, the doctor who saw her not just as a patient, but as something more. The coffee was ready, and she poured a mug, carrying it to the windowsill by the fire escape. She perched there, more squat than sat, her legs dangling over the edge as the city's noise washed over her like a tide. Horns blared, footsteps were heard, and somewhere a siren wailed. She sipped slowly, letting the warmth spread through her, but her thoughts kept circling back to him. Philip, with his steady hands and kind eyes, experimenting with that vaccine of his, the one he believed could cure cocaine addicts. Last night was frenetic, and now here she was, alone in her tiny haven, grappling with her own demons. Since it was her day off, and her cocaine supply was running low, she thought that a little weed couldn't hurt. The decision came like a whisper, half excuse, half craving. She set her mug in the sink and moved to the counter, rolling a joint with practiced ease. The ritual was almost meditative, the crinkle of paper, the scent of marijuana filling the air. Lighting it, she took a slow drag, feeling the familiar buzz edge into her brain. It wasn't much, just enough to dull the edges. With the joint in hand, she settled in front of her easel, the half-finished portrait of Philip staring back at her. His face was emerging from the canvas, strong jaw, thoughtful eyes, but it wasn't quite right yet. She picked up her brush, strokes deliberate as she blended shadows around his smile. Her phone rang from the kitchen counter, shattering the quiet. Julia jumped, heart skipping. For a moment, she thought it might be Philip, calling from the conference. Disappointment hit when she saw Anne's name flash on the screen. And her best friend since she'd landed in New York, the one constant in her band's revolving door of drama. "Hey, Anne," Julia answered, trying to sound casual as she exhaled a little plume of smoke. "Hey, girl. How was your evening?" Still tangled up with the doctor. Anne's voice was warm but edged with concern. Julia hesitated, then smiled into the phone. "Yeah, it was good. Really good." She couldn't hide the fondness in her voice, the way her thoughts kept drifting back to Philip's touch. Head over heels. That's what she was from pretty much the first day. But she downplayed it for Anne's sake. "It's not that serious yet. Don't worry." Inside. "I hope you know what you're doing. Doctor and patient." "That's a line, Julia." I know. But it's fine. We're just Figuring it out. Julia's fingers tightened around the phone, the lie tasting bitter. How could she explain the pull, the way Philip made her feel alive? And shifted topics, her tone softening. And don't stress about Steve. He'll cool off by Monday. You're coming back in rehearsal and you'll perform at night. I'll cover your spot at the pub tonight. Relief washed over Julia. And who'll be in your spot? We'll manage. No backing needed for Saturday's set. We pulled it off last night. Sunny and Pablo are holding up fine. They're just as eager for you to return. We all are. Julia pictured the band. Sunny with his wild hair, Pablo's steady rhythm. How are they, really? They're good. Just, making do until Monday. Steve's being Steve, but we'll survive. And paused, her voice turning gentle. And you? Have you rested? How are you feeling? She meant the cocaine, the 2 days without it that Julia had confided in her about. Julia bristled slightly, the question poking at her raw edges. I'm fine. A little green helps, and painting. It's helping. She glanced at the easel, the joint now burned down to a stub. But yeah, I'm okay. Take care of yourself, okay? I've got to run laundry and then Grandma's on the other side of town before the gig. Go ahead. We'll catch up Sunday, see how tonight goes. They said their goodbyes, and Julia hung up, the conversation leaving her with a mix of gratitude and irritation. And meant well, but she didn't understand the war inside Julia, the love for Philip battling her cravings. She sat back at the easel, brush in hand, but her thoughts wandered. Philip's vaccine, his experiments. She'd read something about it in his notes, how he was testing it on himself. The idea terrified her. So he would be using it now too. What if he became like her? Shaking it off, she picked up her phone and typed a quick message. Just got home safely. That janitor Jeremy is a good old dude, respectful, a bit slow, but he's got heart. We chatted briefly. I told him we met on Tinder. God, last night was incredible. You were fantastic. I'll call you at 8 p.m. Have fun, my doc. Sending it, Julia leaned back, staring at the portrait. For the first time in days, she felt a flicker of resolve. Philip was her spark. She'd fight for him, for them. No more excuses. The love that had bloomed between them would be their salvation, not some vaccine. In the quiet of her tiny home, amidst the fading high and the city's hum, Julia painted on, hoping that everything would be all right.